What's good with the YouTube? You already know Big Flocka with a convict's perspective, and I'm smashing, dashing, sliding on through that little bit of energy. Please hit the like, subscribe, comment, and do all those things to help support this channel, and hit that bell notification for future fire content. So today we got an interesting topic, man. One that I've seen over like the last year has kind of picked up a little bit of traction, a little bit on different channels, and it's about do the NF Nortenos and Northerners do they have any allies? I've seen a lot of I'm saying black channels, whether they're Crips or whatever where they're from, talking about that the alliance has been dead and whatnot. And then some of them say that they rock solid. You know what I mean? Now, I'm gonna break this down as truth as I know it, where my schooling came from, what I've been told by the elders back in the days, and so forth. Now, as far as allies, the NF, the Norteños and Northerners have no allies. They can work in alliance with certain groups that have proven that they're worthy. You know what I'm saying? There was a time era in the 70s uh, that they had a working relationship with the BGF, Black Guerrilla Family, the Jamas, and that was the closest ally relationship that they've ever had with any group outside of its own. And at one time there was supposed to be a treaty that the BGF was supposed to take care of the AB and the NF would take care of the MA. Things changed. NF had its own internal conflicts. BGF had their own issues. So that even though they had strong relationships, it wouldn't be uncommon for BGF members to assist from time to time. There was no guarantee that every time there was a conflict that they were allies, they had to rock with each other. Um, sometimes you go down south and there'd be some Crips or wherever that they would assist you, especially if you were on lockdown. They give you a package, they run your kites. That's working in alliance based upon those individuals. Now, there's been places where whoever's in a leadership position is not assisting. You know what I'm saying? And see, that's where it all comes down to. There has never been a true ally agreement within any of these groups. There was a potential one in the 70s, but other than that, it was based upon alliances, those that were deemed worthy. You can go to one prison to where it was cool with the Crips. They were one of the biggest cars that were assisting. You go to the next prison and they're not assisting. See, an ally, you know, is basically an agreement. It's basically like almost like this side agrees to this and that, and there's basically formalities of where that that alliance has been established. You know what I'm saying? Now, geographically, on a prison yard, we have traditionally always assisted to a certain extent, and we've also been able to coexist in having the same areas. The blacks over here, the northerners over here, but everybody is kind of independently on their own. We can just coexist because that's how it's been traditionally for years. Now, that doesn't mean that it's a mandatory that they're mandatory allies. No, it's just that we have a working relationship from time to time, or on a prison yard, we are in the same areas. That there's no hostilities from time to time. So the truth of it is this, guys, and this is for anybody out there that wants to know the truth about black and brown relationships. There's never been no agreement to making any of these groups allies. There's been solid motherfucking dudes that were from down south, Crips, Bloods, Kumis, Jamas that have assisted to the fullest and helped out and proved to be worthy alliances that they stand beside you in what you're doing. But that doesn't mean that there's a total agreement. There's been times where I've been sent down south and we rocked solid in the shoe. Like it was an alliance where I was at. You know what I'm saying? But see, that's a work relationship based upon the facility you're at. Here's what I was always schooled and told. The NF, Northerners, Norteños, it's a little hot, guys, so bear with me. The only allies they have is with each other. The NF is its own entity. They are recognized as the elders, the forefathers, as far as within those that fall under their jurisdiction, which would be Norteños and Northerners. So they are allies only with Norteños, or back in the days, Nuestra, and Norteños, Northerners. Same thing with the Norteño movement, right? Becoming an ensoul means you've obligated yourself to a particular movement. You've been pulled, you've been schooled, therefore you have a higher obligation to uphold your DNRs as an ensoldado of the movement. Your only allies as an ensoldado is going to be the NF and Northerners, right? Same thing with the Northerners. The only allies that the Northerners have, which Northerners are responsible to follow under Norteño guidelines, the Norteño laws, their only allies are the Norteños and NF. So when you're talking about allies, you know what I'm saying? The only allies that any of these groups have would be the NF, Nortenos, and Northerners. They're all allies. See, the NF is its own organization, its own structure, its own fucking governing body, and its own chain of authority procedures. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with the N Soldado movement. That's its own entity as well, but not in the sense that they are on their own. They still submit, right, and show responsible obedience to the NF. And the Northerners, the same thing. They are accountable and responsible to uphold all Norteño reglas, Norteño laws, and whatnot, even as a Northerner. And so that's what an ally agreement is. So when people start to say, well, those were our allies, this and that in the 70s, 80s, no, that's not true. Were there those that proved to be worthy alliances? Yes, there was those. Many, I can't say a time where we didn't, where the BGF wasn't really rocking with us solid. BGF's always been pretty much one of the more closer groups that we've always worked with, where we've really never had any issues. In Cork, when we had some issues with one individual, you know what I'm saying? But each group rocks independently. You know what I'm saying? So when you used to go to a yard, of course you're going to hit up an Africano because they're going to be the ones that are more worthy, right, to potentially assist you. You know what I'm saying? I've been places to where they don't even want to assist you. Like they're just like, oh, you're on your own pretty much. I've been places to where they're ready to fucking battle with you. And so this is the truth of this topic. And it's always been like that. You know, it all was deemed about those who were deemed worthy and those that were just there. You know what I'm saying? 6 yard back in the 90s. You know what I'm saying? There was Jamas on the yard. There was even Kumis on the yard back then. And it would be common for them to even hold posts for you. You know what I'm saying? They were afforded, if they were on their guard, to take from our tiendas if they needed something. We offered that type of assistance. But see, some people have the misperception like there was just a working relationship, there was a working alliance. No, not at all. For the most part, many groups, whether they were Crips, Blood, Kumi, or BGF, always were there to assist in different locations, though. You know what I'm saying? It's just the relationship depended upon who was there. And that's how those relationships have always been based. So we never ever considered, oh, we're allies. No. We can coexist on the same yards. We can be in the same showers, the same handball courts. We share a lot of stuff. And within some facilities, there's stronger relationships as opposed to maybe down here, there's not. Because if that was the case, every time we went down south, they'd be rocking with us. You know what I'm saying? You know, sometimes when you get down south, they'll pass you a piece. Say, hey, man, you got no homeboys here. That's respected, but they're not going to sit there and say, all 200 of them are going to sit there and say, we're going to battle over you this yard. They're not going to touch you. You know, but there's been places where they have done that as well. You know what I'm saying? To where fucking, homeboys are on lockdown. You may be fucking another, and to avoid them trying to get you, man, they may have a fucking little fucking security around you. You know what I'm saying? So it all depends. And, I've seen this topic, people think that based upon the end all hostilities and everybody's getting along, that there's a bad relationship or there's been severe ties. Nah, I'm not saying that at all. Each group more along the lines rocks independently now. But they've always rocked independently. It's just that there's less relationships that work in alliance with each other as opposed to how it was in the 80s and 90s. And see, I was taught a long time ago that, Chuko told me this. And we were talking about how people drop out and stuff. One of his close buddies dropped out during Operation Black Widow. We were talking about Goose from Song. And he said, we expect it. He goes, there's going to be those that are going to fucking defect. They're going to be those that are going to abandon, what we're doing. He goes, but this is the whole goal. And this really fucking hit hard. He goes, as long as we can utilize that person and get the most out of them before they fucking defect, they've served their purpose. And that was the realest statement I ever heard. He says, just like with the Africanos, he said, people think that we're natural allies. No, we have a working relationship with a lot of them, but not all of them have been proven to be worthy to us. So it's a camouflage for our activities. So he goes, when we're on a yard and we're only 20 deep, but yet this first wave of benches over here, there's about 50, 60 Africanos. That's for our security as well. And he goes vice versa. That's where you have a working alliance relationship, So this is one topic that a lot of people have, different misconceptions of. I've seen the original some of the history to where it says that there was a peace agreement in the 70s, and it says that the NF and BGF had an agreement that they would take care of the AB and that NF would take care of the MA, and that one side felt that the other side wasn't doing what they were supposed to be doing, so it kind of fell apart. But they were still able to work with that group, and therefore that's why they didn't have any alliances. See, they've tried to have alliances with the Texas car before, and then there was a Texas split with the Texas Syndicate where you had those loyal to the north, those loyal to the south, and those that were neutral. See, what people don't realize is that when the NF came out on September what was it, 15th, 1968, or 14th, whatever day it was, and that they did the all-out blitz in San Quentin where Cricket Gallegos died, right? There was 3 cars that were involved in that: the NF, Maravilla, and the Texas car. So the agreement that had happened before they moved on the MA, right, which there was only 4 MA members there. The agreement was this: the first wave, the NF was going to take the first wave and move on the MA. If there was any leftovers, the next car that was going to arrive was going to be the Maravilla car. And then after that, if it was still unestablished, the Texas car. So people don't talk about that, but that's a true fact, man. It wasn't just the NF that were involved in that September 15th, some people say September 16th incident in San Quentin, where the NF let it be known that this is who we are. No, there was 2 other cars involved. And those were almost like an alliance at the time. And then things changed. See, prison politics, you could be rocking with someone one day and have a fallout. You know what I'm saying? Like they tried to have an agreement with the Texas Syndicate back in the early 80s. That fell apart because of their internal struggle. You know what I'm saying? Now in the feds, they all get along. They can work in alliance. And they're building stronger relationships. And see, alliances can change. You know what I'm saying? You could be at one place to where it's all good, yet over here, there may be a little bit more tension. And that's how it's always been. That's how prison politics play. It's the same thing with the Southsiders. High Desert, they were rocking, the Southsiders and fucking skinheads were rocking with each other. You know what I'm saying? Whereas you may go to this prison over here and they're getting along a lot better. So there's no like set, like mandatory fucking agreement really within these groups. Some places they all work in alliance with each other to where it looks like they're allies because the relationship is like that of those who are allies. And that's where everybody has everything misinterpreted. When you have an ally agreement with a group, then that's the expectation supposed to be unilateral all across the board everywhere you go. It's not like that. You know, it's like the NF has an agreement with the TS and the feds. They actually have a document to where they signed it. Mad Dog and then one of the TSs from fucking their leadership actually signed that document. You know what I'm saying? Presenting the peace treaty amongst these groups. You know, so there's a lot more formalities when it comes to prison top politics and using the word allies. And see, some people have misused it, but this is more of an accurate account of how these relationships are. Was it better in the 90s? Yes, it was. Have things changed a little bit? Yes, they have. But have they been deemed a threat or an enemy to the people? No. Seems like some people have been trying to present that more on their platforms. I've been watching a lot of these different, black channels, right? African American, however you want to put the title. And sometimes people are saying that the relationships have fell apart and this, that. No, everything's different and changed. Doesn't mean that there's bad blood. It's just, it's being more exposed to what it really is today. And as the system has changed, whereas in the 80s and 90s, you didn't have a huge prison system like you did today. You had a lot less weak links. So that's when things changed, when you had civilians coming in who didn't want to conform to certain beliefs and certain procedures. Therefore, they're not deemed worthy. You know what I'm saying? You have to earn or show, actually not earn, but show that you're worthy. And see, that's the whole thing with this topic. Always gets misinterpreted, man. You know what I'm saying? There's no just natural. It's never been no fucking ally agreement. It's never been like that. They've tried, but they never have. It's about working relationships from facility to facility, and they can change. You know, and it can still be like that to this day. Anyways, thought I would touch on this topic, man. I think it's an important one, man. And shouts out to I was in prison, man. There's places where, basically the African American cars, whether they're Crip, Jama, or whatnot, they were the ones that assisted me in time of need at times, man. And I don't forget that. They proved to be worthy. And it was always reciprocated in return. And see, I always had that attitude whenever an Africano would come, I would try to reach out and open those doors of line of communication. Some accepted it and were willing to work. Some fucking just rejected it straight up. You guys do your thing, we do our thing. I've been told that before. Okay, cool. You do your thing then. Don't ask us for assistance unless it's something that's an emergency. With that, have a good day. It'll be simple like that. Anyways, this is Black Oil Convict's perspective. You know what I mean? A little bit more knowledge on this topic. Um, this is one of the more accurate accounts that I'm giving you guys. A lot of people have misrepresented this even in the comments, man. This is how we school people on this, man. I've educated people basically based upon this format about not having allies, and that the only allies are Northerners, Nortenos, and F amongst each other. That's the only allies any of these groups have. Everything else is an alliance if they deem themselves worthy. That said, convict's perspective, I'm gone.